how people find work. Our presentation today is 1 hour long. After completing this, you should understand the various methods for networking online, for using internet to your advantage. We'll cover Minnesota Works, as well as Career Force and LinkedIn. It is a cliche, but network, network, network. It can't be understated. Almost every job I personally have had has been because someone told me about an opportunity. Someone said, hey, I think you'd be a great fit. Why don't you join our team or apply yourself? I think you'd find it interesting. Find a way to connect with people that have the opportunities you're looking for, or know people that have the opportunities you're looking for. LinkedIn, I'm a little biased. I teach LinkedIn, so I can tell you that it is a very powerful tool for that. There is an important aspect that I need to talk about also. It's a challenge with the way that we interact with people today. Your job search isn't just sitting in front of a computer and sending out 20 emails a day about your resume attached, or LinkedIn, or communications about networking, or doing the various things that you do on a computer. You have to be able to invest your time wisely. 8 hours just sitting on a computer is not going to get the results you're looking for. And I know it's a challenging time. Use the phone, connect with people you know. The more human the interaction, the more likely you are to make a connection. All right. So one of the things someone in my position trying to help people find employment hears very often is, I need a job. Any job will do. Anything. I just need a job. I need to have some money. Employers don't want to hire people that just need a job. They're not interested in the mission of the company. They're not interested in the success of the company. They're only interested in their self-interested need for money. That isn't why people get hired. You're going to get hired because you show your passion, you show your talent, you show your interpersonal communication skills, your ability to sway people, your different things that make you a valuable asset at an organization. Need is not a valuable asset. Being hungry and motivated is a little different than need or desperation. Even if you are desperate, come across as hungry and with passion and desire to be successful in the opportunity. A lot of employers like to post jobs with unique job titles. Don't just narrow your search to the way that one employer or your past employer described your position. Maybe you were a recruiter, and another employer calls it talent acquisition specialist or headhunter, or any number of different names for these various jobs. And that applies to every job. It doesn't matter if you're talking about cashier or associate or team lead or leadership position, supervisor. I mean, the list is endless. Figure out what you want to do and then focus in on the various aspects of that job and the different ways it can be described. You want your search to come up with more and more opportunities. You don't just want to find warehouse manager and miss out on logistics coordinator or other jobs that could easily be filled by the same skill set. One of the most important things we hear from employers is qualifications, and we try to work with employers. Prior to COVID, we were able to interact with employers very regularly. They were often coming in looking for people, looking for help, trying to understand why they weren't successful. We're trying to help them identify the qualifications that are necessary and not the qualifications that they just have on there just because. Um, Examples would be things that require a 2-year degree where the job has no skills from the 2-year degree. The requirement isn't necessary, and they're eliminating candidates that would be able to do the job duties. You need to do the same thing. You need to make sure that your resume and your skills and talents match what they're looking for as best as possible. And I'm not telling you to lie. I'm telling you to find the positions that are asking for the things that you actually have. Tenacity, immediate response. If you see an opportunity and it's posted for February 2nd to February 21st, applying on February 4th looks a lot better and often yields you better results than applying on the 21st. You're going to see employers taking a look at candidates as they go through the process. They're not waiting till the end and then looking at candidates. They may have found 3, 4, 5 people that they really like and want to bring in for interviews before yours even came across their desk, and it may not even be looked at depending on the situation at that employer. Uh, Avoid scams. There's scams with everything. It doesn't matter what resource you're using. They use the phone, the internet, job boards, credit card applications, etc. If something sounds too good to be true, it's probably not true. Apply some common sense. I'm not telling you to avoid, working for Medtronic or 3M or some great employer that everyone wants to work at. I'm telling you to be cautious if you've never heard of the employer and they have an international number and you can't get a hold of anyone and they're offering you the world to work from home folding envelopes. Do your research and use your time wisely. Again, if you have questions, put them in the chat and we will try to get to them. MinnesotaWorks.net is the state-run job bank in Minnesota. It's owned and operated by the state of Minnesota. We're state of Minnesota employees. The resource is free for both employers and job seekers. So that, free is always good. Employers like it. It is a little out of date in the formatting and the way it looks and the way it operates, but it still gets the job done. It still gets you in front of employers and helps employers find candidates. Minnesota Works, as you can see on the screen, is closed off from the aggregate sites. They're not allowed to index and steal the information from Minnesota Works. So the only place to see those opportunities, unless they were posted by the employer in another location, is to go on MinnesotaWorks.net with an account, sign in, and take a look at your opportunities, post your resume. If you're looking for help with your resume, the first step, get on MinnesotaWorks.net and start looking at opportunities. Make sure that what you're looking for is reflected in your resume. You want your resume to say that you're the best candidate for whatever job you're trying to get, and you can't do that without looking at job descriptions. Excuse me. Minnesota Works allows you to have 5 resumes. You can do this multiple ways depending on your situation. If you have 5 resumes, you can basically make the same resume or very similar resumes for the different way employers describe it. If they're looking for sales associate, you have a sales associate. If they're looking for team member, if they're looking for a leadership position, or if you want to try and get a leadership position, you could have a couple of resumes dedicated to some aspirational goals. Everything in your job search should revolve around your time limit and financial situation. If you're posting resumes to be the CEO and you've got no experience and no education as a CEO, your success is pretty limited. If you've spent 10 years doing the job and now you want to transition to a leadership position, apply yourself to altering your resume to reflect the leadership position. All employers on Minnesota Works are verified by the state of Minnesota. And from a 2010 survey, we have 66 of employers who posted jobs on minnesotaworks.net filled the position with an applicant from minnesotaworks.net. 85% of those who searched for jobs found jobs to apply for, and 47% of those who applied for jobs were contacted for an interview. So those are really good statistics, given the situation in online job search. Those statistics are probably a little higher or lower depending on what industry. Pam, do we have some questions?
Yes, Sean. One of the questions we have is minnesotaworks.net accessible 24/7?
minnesotaworks.net is accessible 24/7 unless there is some maintenance. That's usually a small window on Sundays, usually just a couple hours.
Okay. And how would you approach initiating a conversation with a company's employee on LinkedIn about what you can do for them?
So I do not recommend the cold call. I don't recommend looking for people that work at an employer and just reaching out to them out of the blue. I want you to use your network and have connections that are connected to that person that can introduce you, that can break the ice, and maybe help them understand your value. The cold call works a lot better in person. You know, you show up on someone's door, you got a great smile and a firm handshake. That hits a lot harder than the internet and email and not having that personal interaction. So you really need someone in your corner.
Okay, and then one more. On minnesotaworks.net, it is not possible to attach files like a resume. It is a copy and paste format that seems not to attract or entice for hires. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So when you put your resume on minnesotaworks.net, you can't upload your resume. You have to copy and paste it in. It doesn't seem to be a great format for employers, this person says, or attract employers. What are your thoughts?
All right. So in this situation, don't worry about it because everyone is in the same situation. As far as the actual interaction with minnesotaworks.net, everyone's in the same boat. So the content is king. You need to be sure that your resume reflects what they're looking for to the best of your ability, without any fancy formatting or ability to attract attention any other way. That is the only way you can do it. However, I still want you to make the effort to network, to find someone that you're connected to that is somehow connected to that employer, and use their interaction and their introduction to help you become a top candidate. Networking is king, and it doesn't change just because you're using, you know, the tool that you should be using. For the most part, if you have someone in your corner, you are going to see better results. Prior to COVID, I can tell you it was shocking how many people got their network on LinkedIn, and within a month, we're seeing results that were astounding. I think we'll move on. We'll just pause for questions in a little bit. I already talked about this a little bit. Internet search and the job board addiction. That's where you look at jobs and send out resumes, and you look at jobs and you send out resumes, and you do it dozens of times a day and throughout the week. You know, we want you to switch to a quality over quantity. We want you to send out resumes that have been adjusted to match the employer's job description, to give you the best opportunity for that job. We also want you to do the research to know that that's the job you want to spend that kind of time on. You're not going to be sending 40 or 50 applications every week if you invest serious effort in modifying your resume and expanding your network and communicating with your network and doing the things you need to do to be successful. Um, don't spend so much time on job boards that your network is neglected. Also, taking a break, stepping back from the computer, getting fresh eyes, going for a walk. Yes, it's cold outside. It should sharpen you up pretty quick. Um, do your best to keep balance to it. Don't spend 4 hours doing one thing and think that you're getting the same results you were in that first hour at the last hour. Um, right. We have an example for you. So networking. I like that line. It's about connection, not perfection. What that means is you don't have to have someone, that you interact with every day, a friend that you've known for a decade. You just need to know someone that knows someone that can get you started, that can connect you with so and so. In this example, we have I need a job. And then level one, contact your cousin Mary. Level two, Mary's friend Tom. Level three, Tom's former boss Pam. And level four, Pam's friend John is looking to hire someone. This is a simplified example. We're not talking job titles or how you know these people beyond friend and former boss. Um, but it is that simple. It's not a matter of knowing your ability to know John. It's about how you can find someone that will introduce you to someone that can introduce you to John. This is a hypothetical example. Just remember, this gets easier every time you do it. As you build your network, as your network grows, as you have, instead of 5, 10, 20, you've got 50, 100, 150, 200 connections. The networking piece really starts to hit its stride. And asking for that introduction, talking to people. The only thing I would change about this example is the I need a job. I would want you to say, hey, I'm a career consultant looking for a new opportunity, or some other way of saying it other than just a job. Um, we're going to do a quick little um, question for the chat. How many people do you know on a first name basis? Or better question is, how many people do you think the average person knows on a first name basis? 6. I'm concerned about COVID there. A lot. All right. So I see a lot of different answers ranging from 6 to 700, I think I saw. The answer is the average person knows 300 people. That means that you can call them up. You don't need to introduce yourself as anything more than, in my case, it would be, hey, this is Sean, and then talk to them. They know exactly who you are. Um, just keep that in mind, that that's that's the average person. That isn't the active networker. That isn't the person who is investing time and energy in growing their network and moving through their job search and networking tasks. So, all right, we'll move on. So who's in your network? Some people may have told you to avoid connecting with friends on LinkedIn. That's bad advice. The people who are most invested in you are your friends and family, people you've worked with for a long time, people you went to school with. The the network is basically everyone you interact with. It doesn't matter how often you interact with them. It could be the barista at Starbucks. It could be the cashier at Cub. Whatever. Whenever you have an interaction, it's an opportunity for networking, and it grows and it gets easier every time. Um, your networking groups and job clubs, this is a really important opportunity. LinkedIn has groups, so you can find people that are interested in a topic or hobby or industry or the various aspects of many uh, jobs out there. Professional organizations, if you have an interest in it, if you've heard of it, if you went to school and had the opportunity, revisit it. Look into those organizations. Look into opportunities to connect with people in the industry you're trying to find new employment with. Um, Civic groups, religious organizations, all the things, all the locations, all the businesses and organizations that you interact with have opportunities for um, employment as well as networking. And I like the example of the barista at Starbucks. So if we think of how to grow our network, who are the best people to network with? I would say it's often the person near the bottom rather than the person at the top, because the person at the top has their circles, but the person who's hungry and growing their network and trying to interact with everyone that they meet. If you work as a barista at Starbucks and you're selling $5 coffees or fancy coffees to people that can afford it, then that means that your opportunities to network with those people are much higher than someone who's not interacting with customers or customers in that scenario. Take advantage of that and network with your barista, network with your cashier, do the things that take literally seconds of your time to try and make a connection. Especially in this time of COVID, the barista or cashier might be the only people you're really able to interact with. All right. So employers, talking about employers, thinking about how to interact with employers, starting with a phone call. I like tying someone's voice to the name or the email address or it creates a person. Um, it's a lot easier to ignore an email than it is to ignore a phone call or voicemail or multiple of each. Um, Informational interviews are one of those very powerful tools that very few people actually use. Um, Another quick chat question. How many of you have done an informational interview? Hey, this question wasn't just for the people who have. All right, a pretty good percentage of you have. That's impressive. All right. So informational interviews are when you are the interviewer, when you're interested in an opportunity, when you're thinking about working for someone or joining a new industry or moving down a career path that's a little different from what you're on, or you know you're looking for a change and Um, it's your opportunity to find out more information. When we talk about informational interviews, it's very important that you're not wasting their time. You're coming up with questions. You're giving the questions to the person you're going to interview in advance. You're committing only to like 20 minutes is a typical easy amount. It might have to be a virtual one in the current situation, but you're going to ask questions and it's going to help you decide if working for this person, if this industry is for you. For example, if I had done an informational interview at one of my past jobs, I would have learned that I did not want to be an electrician. Um, I went to I became an apprentice electrician. Uh, we were working on live current. We were working nights. We were traveling a lot. It just wasn't what I expected. If I had done an informational interview and found out that that was common, if you're working in a commercial environment, they don't want you working when the store is open. I probably would have figured out that, hey, traveling, working nights, working weekends, and of course, experiencing the shock of electricity pretty much every time you work isn't exactly fun. So keep that in mind. Think about the things you want to know. Take advantage of it. This isn't just you finding out information. It shows a lot of initiative. It shows desire. It shows that you are a good candidate and hopefully you can match together. All right. Don't forget, um, if you have questions, post them in the chat. We will try to get to them. All right, telephone communications. Um, you know who you're calling, you know why you're calling, you're communicating clearly, you're enunciating, you're speaking possibly a little louder than you normally do. Um, you have an outline of what you need to talk about, what you want to touch on. You're doing the best you can to limit the amount of time that's wasted when you call someone. You don't want to sit there saying, and yeah, well, okay, but you know, all those time-filling words, you want to know what's next. You want to know what you want to say, and you want to get to it as fast as possible, and speak clearly and communicate very well. You may not know this, but practicing out loud and dressing well will make you on the phone sound more confident, better prepared, more professional. It is worth the little bit of extra time to look nice, even though you're only doing telephone communications. I do know because of the situation with in-person interactions, a lot of employers are looking for candidates to do video calls, team meetings, things that you really need to be dressed professionally for. Be organized and, of course, smile. We can hear your smile. We've done blind tests. People can hear you smile. I don't need to say too much more than that. Um, all right, we are on to my favorite part. We're going to start focusing on social media and LinkedIn. It's really going to be LinkedIn because out of all the social media out there, it is the one designed for professionals. It is meant to be um, about employment and employers and people interacting professionally. Um, this statistic is definitely out of date. This 80% of employers, it's got to be 100% by now. Uh, you, every employer I've talked to, why would you limit yourself to just what someone's telling you if they have an entire um, encyclopedia of knowledge and pictures and events that you could look at online? So if you're doing job search, not only does your LinkedIn need to look professional, You want it to say the current information. You want it to communicate what you're looking for and that you're a good fit for the employer. But you also need your Facebook, your Twitter, the things you post on blogs and YouTube, and all the different things that people can find tied to you need to reflect that um, professional quality candidate, the person that the hiring manager wants on their team. If you're in job search, you really want to spend some time on cleaning that up, and that can mean removing things that are hot topics or challenging or religious, hunting, things in the news that you've commented on that are definitely, let's say, inappropriate for work. Um, do the best you can. Also, try Googling yourself. See what's coming up if someone Googles you. So if you spell my name correctly and search for Sean Morgan, you'll actually find the lead singer of Seether, which is a rock band. And that's not me. I don't have tattoos. I don't have long hair. I wish I did, but I don't. Um, so take a look at what they're seeing. And this is why you need to have the link to your LinkedIn profile at the top of your resume. You need to be sure that when they look for you, they are finding you and your information and um, the best fit for you. You don't want them to find some rock singer or uh, someone who went to jail or worse. Excuse me. All right, Pam, you got questions?
Yes, we do. We have quite a few actually. Um, so let's start with some people have an issue with LinkedIn privacy. They're cautious about social media accounts and don't like everyone being able to see their profile. What would you suggest? They don't have a lot of options on LinkedIn for.
um, to, it's something that you have to work on. We live in a time when the expectation is that you have stuff out there. And if you don't appear on those sites, they question if you're a real person, if you're going to steal from them. I mean, there are so many different things that go through employers' minds. We forget when we are job seekers that an employer is on the other side of this looking at someone like, I'm going to paraphrase. They don't say it quite as bluntly, but you're going to cost me probably $2 million if you work for me for, 15 years, 20 years, or your whole career. It could be a million, 2 million. The average person is about 4 million. Of course, that accounts for many different aspects of, location and cost of living. But the reality is they have to trust you with resources and customers and all these different things, and they need to bring in people that can perform the job, do it well, and also not cost them money, not create an environment that's toxic, not do all these different things that are a challenge for employers. So they need to be able to confirm the information that you're putting out there. You fill out your resume and then you don't have a LinkedIn, or your LinkedIn is behind some privacy. They're going to just move on to the next candidate. They are not going to invest a lot of time in figuring out why they can't find you, or why this information is unavailable, or why you've limited your LinkedIn profile so much. Um, I know people don't like to hear it, but that is pretty much the expectation these days. You're you're going to see a lot of employers ignore your communications, ignore your um, resume and requests because you're not available. So that's the blunt way of saying it. Why don't we connect? If you need help figuring out what you're comfortable putting out there, you want me to take a look at your LinkedIn profile, um, I certainly would be happy to help in a one-on-one setting for those of you with those concerns. Another question?
Yeah. First, what is the best resources to find the contact for a hiring manager or HR, as far as getting their phone numbers or who the hiring person is? And also, when people are given jobs and they feel like they're not fully qualified, should they still apply? And what percentage should they of the skills should they match before they know if they should apply? Should they be match at least 50% of the skills, 75, 80?
All right. Um, that is a lot of questions. I will tackle the obvious one. Um, Skills matching is more of an art than a science. Most employers, whether they tell you this or not, want people that they can teach how to do it their way, whether their way is the right way or the way that's taught at school or whatever the situation is. They want you to come in and be hungry to learn how they do it and how it meshes with the rest of their team and other teams. Um, don't get too wrapped up in that. If you've done that job title before, that is a very good indicator that you are qualified for the job. Some employers might be stacking everything in the kitchen sink on that job description, and then you go into the job and you spend most of your time, 80, 90% of your time on 4 or 5 bullet points out of those 70 you saw on the job description. Don't wrap it up with a number. Really determine if you can do the job and then worry about if you can learn how to do what other things are on there. If it requires math skills that you don't possess to do several of the things on there, probably not a good fit for you. If it's learning how to use a piece of software to perform the duties, most of us have to do that at every job we get. So just balance it the best you can. And when you go in for an interview and they ask you if you have any questions, these are the types of questions you should be asking. Talk about the software and the hardware and the things that, what portion of your time is this, and, show that you're really interested in the job and you want to be able to do it the best you can. Next. Or did
Okay.
I not answer all of that question?
Um, how about the hiring managers, how to get their contact information? Did you answer that?
Hiring manager contact information is pretty much unavailable. Let's just assume it's unavailable. You really need to find someone who can connect you to that person. That's the best way to do it. All the other ways are a shot in the dark. You can call an employer and a company and try and reach someone, but most of the time we're applying for positions um, where the hiring manager isn't interacting with the public. If you can walk into a store and ask for the retail manager and that's the manager you're looking for, that's probably the simplest way to do it. But if they work on an assembly line or, behind private doors, I wouldn't spend too much time trying to find that specific person. I would try to find people that can connect me to them.
Okay. And then is it a bad thing if I'm not on Facebook or Twitter? And also another one that kind of follows up with that, would you recommend setting up a separate professional Facebook or Twitter account?
All right. So, yes, it is bad if you're not on some of the websites. You need to appear as a real person with real relationships. You don't want to be just this person who only exists in the realm of work, or um, it raises questions about if your profile is real, or those things. It really is better to just have multiple social media accounts. If you don't interact with them a lot, keep it limited. That's probably the best strategy. You don't have to go on Facebook every day and post every thought that passes your mind, or the same thing for Twitter. But if keep up with some people in the industry on Twitter, you follow them and you might retweet something once or twice a year, that's fine. And then on the other point about making a professional one, definitely not. Do not make multiples of you. That will confuse and frustrate employers. They are trying to verify who you are, trying to find out how you fit into their organization. And if they see two-face, two different people, they're really gonna get frustrated and move on. Anything else?
In the time of a pandemic, would you advise a career change, or would you still go with what you've been doing for the last 25 years?
So the old-fashioned philosophy is similar to what I'm doing. So I'm going to school to get my bachelor's degree. Yes, COVID is awesome. It's made everything online, and teachers that never taught online are teaching online for the first time, and it's wonderful. Um, the old-fashioned logic or the old-fashioned train of thought was during an economic downturn, invest in yourself, do the education. If you've always wanted to be something that required 2-year, 4-year degree or certification, take this opportunity because it's hard to find work. Go improve your skills. There's also free opportunities for skill improvement. You can do it on LinkedIn. You can do it on several other websites that I can't think of off the top of my head. Maybe we'll circle back to that. But LinkedIn has an awesome feature. I think for the first part of the pandemic, they actually had it free. It might still be free. I'll also talk about LinkedIn Premium and other features in a little bit.
Okay. I've had a few people ask about how to build a LinkedIn page or several questions pertaining to their own LinkedIn. And I'm just going to say I would have you contact your local Career Force Center to get a one-on-one appointment, or even connect with Sean after the event, and then we could set up some appointments to have some help with that one-on-one.
Yep. Don't 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 assume your local force is closed and they're unavailable. You can call and leave a message, and someone will call you back. Career Force is working. We may work from home occasionally. Some locations might be exclusively working from home during COVID, but there should be a way for someone to reach out to you. If you're not getting the results you're hoping for, especially when it comes to LinkedIn, I'm happy to help no matter where you are in Minnesota. Do we have other questions?
How does one overcome a couple of short tenure roles after an otherwise stellar career? They find themselves in a situation that's clearly working against them.
Most employers know that people, have experienced a lot in the last year. If you're talking about multiple gaps over the last decade or several years, um, the number one thing would be to change to a skills focused or um, accomplishments focused resume where you talk about things in the context of how they impact your ability to perform jobs instead of, hey, in 2000 to 2010, I was a sales associate at Target. Instead of doing that, you can talk about your sales skills and then talk about your customer service skills, your leadership skills, and then just list the employers that you've worked at lower on your resume so that you're drawing more attention to what you actually do for the employer rather than the chronological with gaps that you might experience. The other piece would be to switch to duration instead of actual time period. So instead of saying 2000 to 2002, I was in working in a warehouse, you could say for 2 years I was doing that, or 3 years instead of the date range. Anything else?
For somebody that has applied for a lot of jobs and they haven't received any follow-up or even an automated rejection letter, nothing. It's just rejection's hard, silence is harder. How would you recommend that somebody keeps their spirit up?
Interact with friends, interact with people in the same situation. You know, it's one thing if you're sitting alone in front of a computer all day, every day, making phone calls, writing emails, you know, doing the same thing over and over again and not getting results. It's a lot different if you go to a virtual networking group and you're with 15 or 20 or 40 other people who are experiencing the exact same thing. Um, Speaking from my own experience, I agree, and I think it's absolutely shameful that employers in 2020 and 2021 are incapable of sending a letter, an automated email, saying, "Sorry, we went with another candidate." It should be fundamental to what they do, um, and it's sad that that's the situation. But I think networking and finding people in the same situation and communicating, venting, finding about new opportunities to network and interesting things about places people have worked, that's probably the best way to cope with it. Um, Making the conscious effort is the other piece. You need to decide to not let it get you down. You need to decide that you're an awesome employee and you bring more positives to the employer than most people. All right, we will continue with the presentation. We are at the halfway point and we are 10 minutes left. So these next few slides actually go quite quickly. So I will show you the next one. There are literally thousands, 100,000 help topics and questions answered and all kinds of things you can find on LinkedIn. Um, You can watch YouTube videos on LinkedIn on working on your profile, on doing things, exploring new features. LinkedIn actually produces videos to help people understand how to take advantage of LinkedIn. You can talk to your local career force. You can sign up for a one-on-one with me. Making connections. To briefly cover how to make a connection, basically, the easiest way is to, at the top, you should be able to see my mouse. You click in the search and you search for a person or an employer. If we search for an employer, just type the employer's name in there, and then the results should be one of those should be the employer. You're able to look at the employer. You're able to see the employees that are on LinkedIn. You're able to do all of this from the search bar. You can search for employers. You can search for schools. You can search for people, groups, all kinds of things. And it's all from that search bar that is consistent everywhere except the job tab. Looking at the people. So this allows you to find people that work at an employer. The challenge with it is if they are a large company and they've got dozens or hundreds of locations, it'll be almost impossible to figure out which plant manager or store manager is the one for your local Brooklyn Park Target, for example. That's why you really need to network, and find those connections that work there, that do the job. If you look here at the bottom, it says that you have under each of these how many people work or are connected to that person or employer. right. So you sign into your LinkedIn account. We're going to talk briefly about the interview prep feature. Um, it's a relatively new tool. It came out last year. Um, Basically, the interview prep tool makes the hardest part of interviews a little bit easier. Uh, you sign in, click on jobs, click on more, and then from the drop down list, select interview prep. It is going to ask you the 26 common questions in interviews. So the hardest part about interviews isn't the interview, isn't being asked questions. It's not knowing what questions are going to be asked, not being prepared for those questions. So this is going to help you be prepared for the most common questions. Sorry, you're able to record a video response, write a response. You're even able to send it to a connection. You know, you ask the connection if they'd be interested in taking a look at um, your response and critiquing it, giving you some feedback. That's powerful. It also uses AI to check your answer and see if there's some suggestions about how to improve it. Um, I already talked about this. Sorry. Yep. Artificial intelligence feedback. See, I go through these so fast. So once you save the video answer, you can request feedback from a connection. You can privately do it with AI. It's a powerful tool. It makes that unknown a little bit easier. It's not going to ask every question across every industry, but it will help with the fundamentals and with getting into that mode of being interviewed and answering questions. That is the end. We have 5 minutes, a little less than 5 minutes for questions. What do we got, Pam?
All right. One of the questions that we have, based on I think what you were just talking about with the job interview practice, can you repeat the steps to do it again? So can you do it multiple times?
Can you do the interview prep multiple times? Yes.
Okay. And then what are your thoughts on the LinkedIn Premium? Is it worth it?
Thank you for reminding me. I don't know how I spaced on that. LinkedIn Premium is not something for someone who's just starting with LinkedIn. I mean, if you're relatively rich and don't care too much about the money, then fine, do it. But don't waste your free trial and then be frustrated with LinkedIn. LinkedIn Premium is for people that have kind of plateaued on LinkedIn. I have LinkedIn Premium. You know, it brings a lot of different things that I really like about it. It is expensive. It costs $30 a month. If you pay for a year, the entire year in advance, it costs $240, which comes out to $20 a month. So, $20 a month for what it offers, I think it's worth it for a lot of people, especially if you're taking advantage of LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn spent $4 billion on lynda.com to incorporate all of those learning modules into LinkedIn Learning. Um, it's definitely awesome. If that's what you're interested in, it gives you more information about employers. It gives you insights into the performance of the employer. It talks about whether or not they're trending towards hiring more people or laying off people. It can give you some financial information. It does a lot of things. It also gives you InMail to communicate without being connected to people. But I primarily tell people you want to communicate with your network and grow your network and connect with people that can introduce you to more people in your network. So it's good in a pinch, but it's not necessary. Yes, I like it, but get to a point where you feel really comfortable with LinkedIn before you use your free trial would be my recommendation. Go ahead.
Okay, after you've talked to a hiring manager or a recruiter, is it appropriate to connect with them? And also, do you recommend connecting with as many contacts, casual contacts as possible?
So I want quality over quantity. I didn't talk about this very much, and I should have. I don't think that you should do everyone that wants to connect and just connect with anyone. Doesn't matter if they're in Hong Kong or Tokyo or Iowa. Um, I think you should be connecting with people that you've met, that you've worked with. You can meet people online. So don't think that I just mean um, in person meeting people. I really mean, you interacted with them. They know who you are. They know a little, why the connection is valuable. Um, I think you get a lot better results if everyone in your network has some idea of why they care about your success or helping you network or accomplish your goals. So short answer is no, don't connect with just anyone, but don't eliminate people from your connection list just because you you've only met them once or twice. Okay, let's take one more question. It's 11.
Okay. So do you have to have LinkedIn Premium to select private? Some people want it to be private so their employers maybe don't see it if they're currently
No,
working. Okay.
you have the option when you set up your profile to block. It's limited, but you can block like your current employer. So if you're not happy where you are and the employer um, might retaliate if they find out you're looking for work within your profile, you can make it so that it's less easy for your employer or people that work for your employer to see that you're looking for work. So when you select actively seeking employment, um, one of the options is to hide this from your current employer. As far as privacy goes, if you're trying to make your LinkedIn private, why are you on LinkedIn? You really need to come to terms with this. This has to be your profile. This has to be something you own and are proud of, and you want people to find you. I mean, you could be connecting with people that you worked with 10 or 20 years ago or went to school with, or the reasons to have it are endless. The reasons to block it are very limited. So I really would encourage you to open up and you control what's on there. So take that side of it instead of trying to make it private. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. The presentation is now over. Pam, I think you're going to send a follow-up email. Did you want to talk about that?
Yes, a follow-up email will be sent out tomorrow. That'll go out to everybody. It'll include all the slides with their speaker notes. I apologize for not getting to everybody's question, but again, reach out to your local Career Force Center and they will be happy to help.
All right. And I sent the first email. It did have my email address at the bottom. Sean Morgan, again, if you don't remember. Uh, Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and we can talk about your job search, and I'd be happy to help any way I can. Thank you all. Have a great day.